So Petyr Baelish, Littlefinger and Lysa Arryn, they've pulled off a scheme that most people still do not know the truth about. The death of Jon Arryn. Jon Arryn was Lysa's husband, hand of the king to Robert Baratheon, and he fell ill all of a sudden. Like out of the blue. He was fine one day and then the next, a goner. Some people were like, hey, these things happen. People get older, people die. But he was in pretty good health. So the suddenness of the death of Jon Arryn, that caused a lot of finger pointing. And that is what Littlefinger was banking on. He and Lysa, they get there first and they start directing the finger pointing. Lysa sends her sister Catelyn Stark a letter saying, it's the Lannisters, they were behind this. That's why I fled to the Eyrie. Yeah, Lysa really hams it up. The reason she did all this is because she was wrapped around Littlefinger's little finger. She says, I've been in love with him since I was a girl. She would do anything he asked, including lying to her own sister. So when Ned and Catelyn find out that Lysa is saying it was the Lannisters, they don't think she's lying. They're like, surely, she wouldn't lie about that. And so Ned and Catelyn start asking the question, why? What was Jon Arryn up to? What had he discovered? Why was he bumped off? What was the urgency? Why did it happen so suddenly? What had he discovered that put his own life in jeopardy? And Ned slowly starts to put the pieces together. He discovers Jon Arryn, he's been doing a bit of light reading. He's been asking questions. He's been going out and talking to people. The guy is looking up family trees. And Jon Arryn's last words are, the seed is strong, the seed is strong. So Ned is trying to retrace Jon Arryn's steps, trying to work out what had he discovered that got him killed. And that's when he realizes it's the Baratheon dark hair. And Joffrey, Myrcella and Tommen, they're the exception. They have golden hair. Ned Stark comes to the conclusion that Littlefinger hoped he would come to. Littlefinger was banking on this because he wants the Starks to challenge the Lannisters. Littlefinger knows Ned Stark. He knows he's a good guy. He does the right thing. He's honourable. He knows that if Ned thinks something dodgy is going on, he's not going to let that slide. Not for Jon Arryn, of all people. Ned loved him. He was a second father. Littlefinger is counting on Ned reacting in this way. And the Lannisters, they're just pawns in Littlefinger's game. Because Jon Arryn had worked out that Cersei's children were not Robert's, that was a very convenient smokescreen. In fact, it was brilliantly timed. It made sense, especially what we know about the Lannisters and their reputation. Ned thinks, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Cersei's just like her father, just as ruthless as Tywin. The Rains of Castamere is in the back of everyone's minds. So thinking that the Lannisters are behind the death of Jon Arryn, it makes total sense. They're the type to do that kind of thing. Littlefinger's plan works so well because to Ned, it's very plausible. It makes sense that the Lannisters would do something like this. And Littlefinger is banking on all of this because he is the one that arranged for Jon Arryn to be poisoned. He gave Lysa the poison and had her do it. And Littlefinger, he keeps his hands clean. Because people were talking, they were gossiping about the fact that Jon Arryn was asking a lot of questions of late. What's he up to? What's going on? Littlefinger did not want his name in the mix. So he used Lysa to take out Jon Arryn. And then he used Lysa again to pin it on the Lannisters by writing that note to Cat and Ned. He knew that Ned and Catelyn would not let this slide, that they are good people and they would want to do something about this. They would want to discover if this is true. And Littlefinger was also counting on Ned wanting to protect his bestie Robert. Ned is thinking, oh fuck, is Robert living with killers? Is he living in a viper's nest? And this plays a part in Ned's decision to become Robert's new hand. He wants to be there for his oldest friend, and he wants to find out what really happened to Jon Arryn. Ned cares. He wants to know what really went down, and if somebody needs bringing to justice. The problem is, Ned is not thinking on the same level as Littlefinger, because Ned is walking right into Littlefinger's trap. It's Littlefinger that's pulling all the strings. He's the one stirring the pot. He's the one getting people to be suspicious of each other. It's one great big trap, and one that Ned walked right into the day that they found out what had happened, and that Lysa is saying, it's the Lannisters? Because without the death of Jon Arryn, none of what happens happens. Ned would have not left Winterfell. So we can blame Littlefinger for the chaos that befalls the realm. He is sowing the seeds for the War of the Five Kings. And to be completely honest with you, I don't think it was Littlefinger's first time meddling. I have no proof, but I wouldn't put it past Littlefinger to be the one who told Brandon Stark, Ned's brother, that their sister Lyanna had been abducted by Rhaegar Targaryen. Littlefinger, he was like in the area. It is very conceivable that he crossed paths with Brandon and he told him this and wound him up so much that Brandon goes storming off to King's Landing and then everything just kicks off. He was counting on Brandon to have that reaction. Brandon turns up at the Red Keep all pumped up and he wants to know, where is my sister? I think Littlefinger had no idea that a rebellion would happen. I think he was hoping that Brandon would go charging into the Red Keep and cause such a scene that he would provoke the anger of the Mad King and that Brandon would not leave the Red Keep alive, which he didn't. But I don't think Littlefinger fully anticipated, oh, there's going to be a rebellion. I think he just wanted to get rid of Brandon Stark because Brandon was betrothed to Catelyn Tully. And Littlefinger, he was in love with Catelyn. So I don't think what happened with Jon Arryn was the first thing that Littlefinger had ever done, like the first bit of meddling. I wouldn't put it past him to have been the one to light the match that set off this chain of events that led to Robert's rebellion and the fall of House Targaryen. He couldn't have known that it would all play out the way it did, but I think he was happy because it was chaos and he loves chaos. Chaos is a ladder. And Robert Baratheon, as the new king, names Jon Arryn as his hand. Jon Arryn has just married Lysa, and Lysa is the one who convinces Jon Arryn, bring Littlefinger to court. And that is where Littlefinger gets his start. He begins to climb that political ladder. He owes everything to Jon Arryn. But what does he do? How does he thank him? He has him poisoned. Littlefinger, he's not known for being truthful, but he does have one very candid moment where he says to Ned Stark, look, you'd be a fool to trust me. So when we join the story in the books and in the show, we are submerged into this world of chaos that Littlefinger has created in the wake of Jon Arryn's death. And Ned Stark walks right into the trap.